While we ask whether employers will be able to offer increases in 2023 amid tough economic climates, and that issue of salaries remaining the same while the cost of living continues to rise has been a long-standing one, but employers are also as affected by the current economic woes exacerbated by rolling power cuts. Just recently, these factors were highlighted in the Bankserve Africa take-home pay report, which showed a 4.8% decline. Exco member of the SA Reward Association, Dr. Mark Bussin, says it's unlikely that employers will offer increases this year. He joins us now virtually. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Bussin. It's a matter that is quite contentious in South Africa in that the rising cost of living is having an effect on all consumers, and salaries have not been going up, and if you are lucky enough to receive a salary, it's been staying the same for quite some time. So how do we navigate around this matter?
Good morning. Indeed, what a conundrum. We find ourselves in a crossroads here. For us to get good salary increases and good bonuses, our companies need to be performing well. For our companies to be performing well, we need the economy to be performing well. And for that to be performing well, there are a whole lot of structural adjustments that some are very easy to do and very quick that need to be done by government.
You mentioned government and the role of the state in this regard, but in private business, we know that it doesn't translate into a just salary increase that may be warranted given the rising cost of living, but that is not happening in the current dispensation. So taking the conversation forward, what needs to be done by companies? Because as much as consumers are feeling the wrath of the economic impact of the current climate, companies are feeling exactly the same.
Indeed. So a company needs to look after the company's balance sheet and income statement and financial health first, because it's pointless the company closing down and retrenching everyone. So number one is the company needs to make sure that it has financial stability and that it can actually afford to be around next year, 5 years and 10 years. To do that, it's cost control. To do that, it's making more sales. Once you've got cost control and sales in place, that means you've got a fair profit. And then step number two is to try and retain those staff that are absolutely critical for running your company. And these critical staff members are feeling the pinch, as are all staff members. So we all feel inflation going up at 5, 10, 15%. And the companies just can't afford to give that because they're not doing that well. So the companies have to find other ways to reward their staff and make sure that they retain them in other ways and hopefully not retrench, because once we lose our job here, it becomes very difficult to find another job.
You mentioned an issue that is quite sensitive in South Africa, a joblessness or retrenchment. But what's the better evil for companies at this stage? To keep salaries where they are, and it's at a disadvantage for employees, but at the same time, do you then not run the risk of losing individuals in jobs?
Yes, so I'm a parent. I have 4 kids. And if I had to choose between keeping my job and having zero pay increase, or run the risk of 15% of us losing our jobs, and I don't know which 15% it is, I would rather keep my job. So it's much more important to keep the job and weather the storm of zero increases and feel that pinch than retrench.
And the question that would follow that would be, for how long are employers and employees willing to stay in the status quo, especially given that the economic situation is not at a stage where magic wand is going to work?
Oh, that is such a good question. I just know that every year we leave it, it becomes tougher and tougher and harder. So this is urgent. This is something that needs to be solved in the next year or 2, but not 3 or 5 or 7 years. So in the meantime, something that companies could do as well is go to their shareholders and say, look, you need to give us a bit of leeway on the dividends and returns that we're giving you. Feel the pain with us, and let's not give as much as we used to give. Let's give less to you so that we're all in this together. And that is one thing that could happen. The shareholders could come to the party and give the organizations a a reprieve for a year or two. But if after a year or two it's still zero increases, then we're into 3, 4, 5 years of zero increases, and that is a recipe for much bigger problems for both companies and the state.
That's an interesting element that you raise of shareholders having really to put on the mastering with the company in tough economic times to ensure that employees are at least kept happy, because you get dividends as a shareholder, the company grows, your share stocks rise, but at the same time, if you have an employee that is consistently unable to meet their monetary demands, it's a serious concern. How much of that conversation is taking place in South Africa? Because previously it's been a matter of critique.
Yeah, so I think not enough, but it is starting. So the saying that we've now all coined is we're going to share in the gain and share in the pain. And that holds true for anything. So it's got to do with CEO bonuses and shares and worker percentage pay increases. The conversation is a tough one because the shareholder says, look, I've invested with you. I need 10 or 15% return, because if I don't get it from you, I'll put it somewhere else. And if someone else doesn't deliver, I'll put it in my savings account in the bank and I'll get my 6% from there. So shareholders have options, and that's really what the conundrum is. You need to go to the shareholder and say, look, we know you've got options, but we've been very good to you for the last 10 or 15 years. Please be patient with us. We need another 1 or 2 years. Some of it, though, is out of the company's control, because the company is physically unable to operate if there's no power or if there's red tape or bureaucracy or things like that. So problems hunt in packs, and everybody needs to come to the party. So the worker needs to understand it's another year or two. The company needs to make sure that they don't retrench. The shareholder needs to give a reprieve on dividends. The government needs to pick the low-hanging fruit, but quickly. I mean, this year, 2023, there's some red tape and some bureaucracy that can be changed with a stroke of a pen. It's that fast. And it's all urgent. It really is all urgent. So we don't have the luxury of time here.
Dr. Mark Bussin from the SA Rewards Association talking to us about pay increases in 2023, unlikely, as you've heard there.